when you lose a map in that sort of fashion, it's very easily to mentally check out. Like, it's such a long and tiresome one, and to get a loss at the end is always going to be rough. Now, of course, there's a hell of a lot of experience on the side of North, players who've been around for many a tenure, but at the same time, Heroic are no slouch on this map. An aggressive start with middle control as the main focus. They do manage to get an opener, but in the meantime, it's going to be a quick push in. Tassis! That was a ridiculous shot to kick off what looks like a retake, but they've got to get that bomb down first.
They do, and with Lekro going aggressively, Tassis goes through the Molotov, tagging Lekro down significantly, who still holds on for a 2K. niko and Borup have been absolutely devastated, as will Heroic if they were failing to pull off this 2v3. It puts them on the back foot instantly. Tess is still alive, though, after a snappy one-tap onto the approaching keys earlier on. Storm has to try and step up to the table, and he's been spotted on the staircase as he moves in, pivots into play, and MSL close range puts the Glock to use, and Lekro with 3K get North into first blood territory. They've drawn it on VERTIGO.
Yeah, earlier in the day, I think the round that defined the match was Zen falling off the map, so I think we've already had a slightly better highlight than that, with an impressive 3K from Lekro, and he had an okay game in the last map. It wasn't incredible. There were definitely players that we were looking at, like obviously in terms of numbers, Gade, Cajun B, very impressive, and then MSL with just the amount of openers he was able to gain. It's a pistol round under their belt, and as it's mentioned so far, like, well, the second round forces from Heroic thus far have not been very good. Not a bad start, though. The cheeky boost, some elevated players, and already with the amount of rifles that are currently in play, a bit of a worry, but well done from Gade. He brings things back at least into an even scenario. And for the remaining T, sure, the bomb is lost, but I like the way they're going about it. Sure, the guns are being retrieved, but their flank is coming up fast.
niko, Tassis, and Borup all chipping in for kills, alongside 2 from Gade and 1 from AZ. Time dwindling away. Bombs still drop down, and North, all the initiative has to fall on their shoulders. A second round force buy on Heroic. So far, so good. But it could end up being so what if they both fall down here without much of a fight. Dawn has his angles covered off. Lekro with the spray, but it's an even trade. Both players healthy, but the AK comes out second best against the Galil. Cajun holding on by the thinnest of margins, and North do take a 2-0 lead.
The finest of margins. And while I guess the stack continues, that it's not been a particularly good second round conversion rate from the or win rate, I guess you could say, from Heroic, and North doing well to convert. That was ridiculously close. And you have to bear in mind that normally we talk about the money making in rounds coming off the back of SMGs. They didn't really have any SMGs. There were rifles bought up on the majority of players. So any losses here is going to be exceedingly expensive from the side of North. Sure, they have an SMG here, but as of right now, we're looking at Testes holding an AK-47. Probably the remaining players just trying to get an extra kill or two.
I love that play that Heroic went for as well. You see a lot of teams when they go in for these full sort of USP rounds, maybe a couple P250s, they decide to all narrow peak the same angle. So you get 3 players running out single file, and that's never going to work against a fully automatic weapon. What niko does there is he baits his 2 teammates to a degree. Obviously, they're all running out together, but he runs wide. So the player that was trying to snap in, which is Cajun, to spray all the oncoming CTs, has to go back and forth. He has to thread into the headshots. Otherwise, there's going to be too many bullets spitting his way. You can see Heroic trying to draw some of these players out into the open to get detonated by the bomb. It won't work out for them, so North off to a 3-0. But Tessis does hold on to that AK that you mentioned before, Tom, and behind that they could buy. He could even drop an AWP across to Cadian. They decide against it. They want to prioritize a bit more utility on Tessis, and Cadian can afford his own AWP anyway.
Yeah, chances are in a lot of cases, there's not going to be a whole lot of utility being used by your AWPer anyway. Cadian throws down the initial ramp smoke because of that, because you don't want your AWPer unscoping as much as humanly possible. Yeah, I'm going to see a slight boost over the top of the smoke. I like the idea. Estes, though, I think AZ definitely has an inkling. With throwing out this smoke, this could be everything. I don't think he knows they're here, but they're peek out. He's actually only going to get one. I thought that was almost definitely a double for Tesses. And in fact, Nico's been tagged quite heavily as well. So North, not in a bad position this round at all. Obviously, still somewhat of a bonus round. You've got the SMG still in play on Gade. But with all 4 players remaining not having any head armor, that might not be too much of a worry. I do like the re-aggression, though. An attempted re-aggression as, well, again, it's just a trade.
Yeah, and as long as North come out ahead, if they're trading back and forth, this will catch up with Heroic much quicker than it will North. Good flashbang out, but Storm baited into a false sense of security, didn't check the tight angle, and AZ was just perched up there. Smoke comes through, and that probably cost Cadian his life. If Storm calls that it's clear, you do not expect to get peeked that early from ramp. And now with 30 seconds North, with the player advantage, this is all a ruse. This is dedicated towards the B side of the map, as Barb's about to find out firsthand. Cajun takes his head clean off, Molotov put into place, Dawn gets singed a little bit from it. That sound cue's now coming through, and North, they'll be off to a 4-0 lead. I doubt that Storm even attempts this, wants to save the AWP instead, and he will back off. Now, you look at the percentage win rate again here, and it does look really good, but again, there's a discrepancy in terms of the teams that these two teams have played. If you look at Heroic, they had a narrow loss to G2, they beat Endpoint, they lost to Astralis 28-24, incredibly close. They beat Big, lost to Astralis 16-13, smashed Big 16-2, beat Astralis before at 16-7. This is a team that is doing really well against the very top that CS has to offer. Meanwhile, North have got wins against Sprout, Budapest 5, Aves. And the Aves game was close. So yes, they're good on this map, but again, there's a discrepancy in terms of skill level. That being said though, Tom, we said the same before NUKE, and it didn't really matter.
Ooh, this buy. Firstly, any buy that has an MP5 in it, I'm not going to be behind. Gone for a double AWP. So this has to be proactive. This has to almost be aggressive from the CT side if this one's going to work out for them. After plant positions can't be allowed, and that's something we see quite regularly on this map. A-site retakes almost a given. Storm, he's patient though. He doesn't care about the player jumping across. If he can get a free kill, that's all they really need. The opener off the first AWP goes the way. Now, this could be misleading. North knows the likelihood of an AWP being saved, right? They don't know there's been a second bought into him. Well, I sort of questioned the MP5. I wasn't a fan of it, but Barup, he's making it work. In fact, he's managed to get 2 and drop the bomb and pick up an AK. I take it back. Keep using it.
Oh, the player with the XM that was unrelenting, refused to upgrade for the longest time without any success, has now made the MP5 work early on, which is good news on Heroic, as they were eyeing up a very real possibility of a 5-0 deficit to kick this off. It's basically what North had to contend with on NUKE if you cast your mind back before they strung together 5 rounds. And now Gade, with 30 seconds, has more than enough funds to buy into the next round, but it may just be a case of not wanting to give another AK across to the CTs as well. This could be a 2-pronged situation where he looks to get some exits, but by and large holds on to this AK-47. As a result, he could drop across an AWP or an M4, an AK, pardon me, not an M4, and they could get a good buy out of this. But at least Heroic do finally get themselves into the action, and it's at only the cost of Cadian. So that does a decent job of building up their economy. They actually do trade up to an additional AK anyway. niko upgrading his FAMAS to 1, and Gade will successfully save.
It's got to be quite a frustrating round from North as well, as you know that's one that realistically is lost by somebody jumping at you with an MP5. Like, you're not going to be happy about that, no matter how well Barup did with it. It's not a round that you're really hoping to lose, especially with the economic position that Heroic were in. They fully invested into that round, so you could have potentially even had 6 before they managed to get on the board, which... well, knowing what happened in the last map, you're going to take any rounds you can get. Now, for North in this case, they can still get a pretty decent buy. The weaponry can be juggled around. In fact, Gade had enough to drop a couple. But if they were to lose this one, it could be in a bit of trouble. I like the idea of them building up in towards this A side, though. As said, you're almost guaranteed an afterplant position in a lot of cases on this side of the map. And with 2 AWPs on the other side, that could be a problem. niko, though, this is the second time we've witnessed this. Re-aggression later into the round. A free kill this time, and he has Tessus alongside him. Really well-timed pushes coming in from the side of Heroic, and now Storm coming under pressure. He's got that trusty AWP, utility being expended as well to slow them down. They're having to waste smokes to try and just get towards this site. They are closing him down, but his teammates have come in to support, and a fantastic round from Heroic. They go from losing 4 in a row to winning a cheesy one and then a flawless one.
Great escape from Storm as well, by the way. He didn't even die. He was under so much pressure for so long. I was sure he would fall down. Alongside him, at least one weapon would follow, but you can see the impact it's having now on the economy of not just North, but Heroics is building up nicely. They've got 3 AKs on the CT side and 2 AWPs. You couldn't really ask for anything better than this, but the flick from Cadian, slightly awry. He's yet to get any kills on this half. He had a slow start on NUKE as well. And now his teammates are stepping up and they're delivering some headshots. Tessus next in play. Cadian, unfortunate not to get the outright frag, just legging leikkeet instead. He was hopping into the air. And this is where the guillotine should come down and chop away North. It's Cadian that dies. Oh no. And they actually have to lose one of those AKs as a result to pick up the AWP. So that is a slight, small victory for North.
It looks like he's going for some sort of assist record. 0, 5, and 5. I honestly think that would annoy me more than being 0, 0, 5. Just knowing that you're doing a lot of damage, but you're not getting any of the reward for it. I'm sure Cadian's slightly more of a team player than I am. Again, though, looking like we're going to see some counter-aggression into the ramp. That's been the main play over the last few rounds. Cadian has been spotted. Tessus, on the other hand, hasn't, but at this point, it has to be predicted. And MSL, the counter spray back through the smoke, is going to find the opener. The can opener, we'll have to call him at this point. He's opened so many rounds for his squad. He's looking for niko, but niko eventually puts down the IGL. However, in the meantime, the rest of the team go executing through the ramp. We're up. Probably just has to save this one. A 1v4. Sure, the money's decent, but I'm not sure he'll want to give away an AK.
No, it's too valuable on the CT side. Maybe cognizant of North's economy not really building up too well. So if you can get a couple more kills out of this, that will sting North long term. But you can see that Cadian had a slow start to NUKE. He's very much the same here as well, albeit on assists. But he gets caught out in the open. Very unfortunate. I think it was Tessus that went into the scaffolding and sprayed through the smoke. That spray was designated for players that were getting up close, but he didn't realize 2 were actually at the bottom of the scaffolding and off angle. And they perfectly threaded the bullets through. And at that point, the round was basically done. Wrapped up. North with a 5-3 lead. It is a map, though, Tom, that is pretty even in terms of, I'd say, the CTT bias. I think it depends on the teams that you're looking at, so I won't really read too much into this, and that's the moment I'm speaking of. And they just wrap around, instantly taking the head off Tessus. Cadian walks into side, and MSL, as you point in the can opener. It's a pretty apt description of what he just did in that round again.
Very similar default round being thrown in, although there's fair amounts of aggression from the CTs into mid. Part of the map that can be fairly underutilized, but both teams feeling relatively confident, maybe not expecting for a second player to be there, and Storm is left 1 HP. Very lucky to be alive, but he is alive nonetheless. The A-stat again looking to come under control. And Cajun B, there is that second man. The man they weren't expecting. The Molotov, though, doesn't stop Cadian. He continues through it. However, Vince, even a bomb plant here could become awkward. Double AWPs in a retake, a few players low. They do have a fair amount of utility, and MSL clearly not content with planting the bomb without getting that man advantage at least even. He's aware of Tessus' position, but that doesn't mean he can stop him. That nade's not amazing, and it's a good thing Storm wasn't close, otherwise he might have lost his life. And leikkeet and AZ spring into action at exactly the same time. This round isn't done just yet, and leikkeet chimes in with another. Storm, he has 1 HP and he won't do anything. leikkeet off to a flying start. The Swede among a sea of Danes, and he's holding his own.
I'm a bit speechless. That was a 2v4. And there was so much utility left on the CTs. They didn't have to get up close. He didn't have to go in for those raw peaks. Excellent hold. Make no mistake, North have played that to perfection, but Heroic will have some questions to ask themselves after that one. They go back in again. They have a full-on purchase, and they're going to try and get some aggression down on ramp, but good smokes and flashes utilized from the T's keep them at bay. Heroic, though, deciding to go back in again. They have lost Testis, who's typically their scaffold player. And now they have to pivot into more action. Storm can't transition that spray across to the second player, and leikkeet gets the upper hand. Heroic taking to the depths, and simply put, they cannot swim alongside North. They're drowning. They're really struggling to be anything other than submerged. Cadian's already backing away as if he wants to save, and niko doesn't have that luxury. He's kind of pincered in and stuck in this corner. So unless he comes out with a couple kills and gives Heroic a chance to get back into this round, it's looking likely that North will accelerate themselves to a 7-3 lead and a very poor economy behind it on Heroic. They're taking their time, though. They're anticipating some kind of a push comes into fruition. And Cadian is making moves now. Here come a ton of nades. niko's pushing behind them. There's one, looking for a second spray, and he gets it. He gets tons of damage onto Cajun, and Gade, very unfortunate. It's also not guaranteed damage from the perspective of Heroic. They may not even realize that these players are this low, and so Cadian can't feasibly go for it.
That's unlucky. A real nice try from niko. I think that although I'm about to criticize the top fragger in the whole server, I think Testis has become too predictable. That's now too, like, in the initial stages, we saw him massively successful with his aggression around the ramp. But the problem is we've now seen him die, I think, 2 or 3 times in the exact same spot. In fact, one of them was just MSL spamming the smoke to just pre-fire exactly where he is. You can see AZ as he walks out there does exactly the same thing, just goes for a pre-fire to make sure that that position is clear. You need to be more dynamic than that, and that's what Heroic have been doing in a lot of these rounds. I really enjoyed the middle aggression just moments ago to take down some of the early players. But on ramp, it has been all North, and this is the spot I mean. Like, they are just using a boost. They are waiting for him to go for any sort of peek around that angle. I will admit, though, the shots that are being connected by AZ are pretty tasty, and that's something that excites me, because him playing an entry role, the next player in is normally leikkeet, who is also very well known for playing an entry in the past. If those two get firing, it could be difficult to stop.
They're a juggernaut of a pair. Absolutely. Heroic will do their best to at least put a dampener on things on North, but really they only have an AWP in the hands of Cadian and some upgraded pistols alongside it. 7-3 lead already kicking off, and it was AZ that was actually statistically the weakest player of the 10 on NUKE. So it's good to see him having some impact now. He'll be much required. Nice boost. Testis actually landing tons of damage, but no kills. MSL worse for wear. Cadian thinking about going for that wide swing through scaffolding, gets the frag. But again, you drop back into a situation where you look at the rest of Heroic's weaponry, and it's not really justifiable to favor them, even though they have the player advantage. Now, if Borup can land a headshot here, maybe there's a way back in. Storm using that smoke to get up close. Couple weakened players, spams up through the smoke, but nothing really forthcoming. Molly bounces off his head, starting to burn him to a crisp, puts him in an awkward angle, but still comes out ahead and drops the bomb down in the process. Such a chaotic round, and now Testis has his hand on that AK that was dropped down early. Bit of sanity back into the round for a few moments, bit of respite, but niko takes that grenade flush on the face. Cadian straight back in with 2. Cajun and leikkeet have been dismantled alongside Gade. Heroic put 1 AWP and 4 pistols to use and come back into this map.
It's one of those rounds you live to forget if you're a North fan. Like, they have been the better side, no question. They've been fantastic so far in their T-half, and the annoying thing is they had to fight against multiple buys in a row because of players saving, because of money being built up in the ones that were won. And then they lose to an AWP and some pistols, and this is where the confidence rises. Just moments ago, I was sat there looking at Cadian with 2 kills, a multitude of assists, and 7 deaths. He's now completely even on kills. The assists still stand, and he's got the opener in another round. The aggression onto ramp, so successful. This time has cost them. And more importantly, it's easy to go down. Now, you might look at his tally and say, well, Tom, that might not be a huge loss, but that's been getting some pretty important openers for them here.
All 4 of North clumped on ramp. Absolutely dead on the money. At one point, Cajun was even 0-5-5 without a single kill. Now he actually puts himself into more kills than deaths. A big turnaround as Heroic look to try and bounce back into this map. Not just the comeback to actually take the lead, maybe going through into the second half. It's still doable. And Testis, who continues to have excellent performances, AK in hand, decapitating the oncoming team. He goes in for another one. A 3K puts him up to 14 frags and 103 ADR for the youngster.
Yeah, I mentioned him a couple of rounds ago as becoming a little bit stale. Well, a complete position change here, using the smoke to his advantage. And this is why we talk about the sort of prospects, the future of this Heroic roster. They're already here now, but they've got 2 players so young and so effective within their current roster. Here's the other one. Storm dinked up. It's Barup, in fact, doing the majority of the damage. And this is what terrifies me about Heroic. They can look down. They can look like they're in trouble. In fact, take your mind back to NUKE, Vince. The scoreline was 5-0. North win 5 rounds in a row, breaking all of the buys, destroying the economy of Heroic. They come in with pistols. They win that 6th round. They win out the half. Now look at this situation. Almost identical. Sure, it was an even bigger position for North. They were in the lead. They were looking dominant. And since then, they've started to get slaughtered. A better start to this round. But Cadian is now popping off. He can't quite find the kill through the smoke and takes damage in return. MSL, he looks to put this North roster on his back, but Storm is still here. More importantly, he's dropped the bomb.
Storm, though, is becoming encircled. That kill on Cajun from Testis is massive, but Storm cannot live to reap the rewards and the benefits of it. He goes down instantly afterwards, 2-on-2. HP slightly favoring the teaser. Now it is absolutely the case. They are ahead in manpower, HP advantage off the charts, and Cadian, who's really come alive, likely will be sent down a peg if he goes for this rotation and this potential retake. Does catch a glimpse of Gade, puts the bullet onto him, and now goes back in for more. It's a battle of the AWPers, it's a battle of the IGLs, and that grenade is going to do chunks of damage. Cadian can't flick in, though. I actually think maybe the detonation of the grenade masked MSL for a second and did more harm than good.
And that's really unfortunate. I think it almost just shrouded his vision enough. This is the impressive thing, though. We've now had 2 what I would call swing rounds. Rounds that like are basically looking to try and define the map. Now, this half might have just been decided by the in-game leader of North, and the round which was crunch time for their opposition was decided by the in-game leader of Heroic, the 4K off the back of the AWP.
That may not spell too much in favor of North. Most of their losses coming to the hands of other Danish teams.
Doesn't help that most Danish teams also seem to be some of the best teams in the world.
True, that is true.
If it said UK teams, I might be a little bit more worried.
Double ops in play one more time. Last round of the half. North will be leading regardless of the result, but considering their phenomenal start, they may be left disappointed. Heroic have to contend with a pretty slow start from North. Actually, 2 plays back on the spawn side, and the bulk of their aggression is being taken shape through on B, but they're keeping their options available, not giving anything away. 3 players on Heroic actually over on B site. So they can quickly draw themselves back. Borup, not for the first time, jumping on top of the wall to just peer down. We saw his MP5 rip through the T's here earlier. Won't be a repeat performance, but now Cadian, nothing to really fend him off. You're hoping for a flash or a smoke to come in from north, but he actually changes up his angles instead, tossing a Molotov down, trying to draw the T's out into the open, but a well-placed flash keeps them alive.
He's going back for more. Feeling confident after the last few rounds, and I can see why. It's been integral to this turnaround for Heroic. Looking like it was going to be a really dominant half for North, and while they can still take themselves a decent lead into their CT side, but nothing that a pistol round ring can't change. This is massively aggressive. It's so risky from Cadian. He had little to no support, and, well, his cojones are dragging along the floor. Unfortunately, they're sat limp with the rest of his body. As now we sit with the CT side once again. They love this re-aggression. They love trying to take the control. MSL will fall, but so will multiple players. And in a matter of seconds, the half gets ended. It is going to be the
3 in favor of North, and although they do lead come the second half, Heroic have bridged the gap. Still anybody's map, but elimination on the line. And with Heroic winning a marathon nuke, North cannot afford any mistakes. The second pistol gets underway right now as MSL tries to get himself a frag on the cross. The HE is good. It softens up so many targets, but the T's still spilling out into the open. Lekko runs out of ammunition, tries his best to duck down and survive just a little bit longer. And now that MSL has been smoked out, he will try a different angle. The CTs are more than aware of this, though. With Cadian on the flank, Cade was waiting for it, watching for that very play. But he's still gone down, and that puts MSL in a 1v2. He's got tons of grenades, but does he have the bullets to go alongside with it? No, he just comes out second best. And I thought he pulled it off for a second there, Tom. That would have been a beautiful clutch.
That's the unfortunate truth, though. I feel like you've almost just defined this match. I thought they pulled it off, but it was close. And that's the unfortunate thing, is that North have been really good in this series. Like they battled all the way through, but there's been a few pivotal moments. I'm thinking that AWP 4K from Cadian might be the defining moment of this map, and I hope it's not. I hope I'm wrong. I think at the beginning of the day, if you'd asked me, do I want this to go to 3 maps, I definitely would have asked questions of you, Vince, but it's been a banging game, a close derby, one that, as said, the last few times these teams have played has not happened. Heroic have banged North in the majority of the matches, but this time North seem prepared. Their players are on point. And in this round, at least, it looks like another attempt to brawl. They've gone for a full deco buy. Still the majority of their money spent, but MSL saving a bit of extra cash. The problem is they've been nowhere near the action, and their attempts to run through the smoke are only going to be met by SMGs and rifle bullets. 3 players now remaining, and one of them desperately low. And the only real call is to say,
May not be allowed to. Cadian in hot pursuit. One of the 2 SMGs, the other being in the hands of Borup, who's gone for the MP5 again. And Cadian with a more orthodox MAC-10. They will be steamrolling onto the B side. Gave, nice shot in midair, but it was a weakened Cadian, and Borup makes the most of it. So the expendable player has been dealt with, lowering the threat. And there is the final kill. Heroic take the lead for the first time on VERTIGO and put themselves, economically speaking, into great shape alongside it.
oh, not going to see much. A Zeus for Lekro might be at least there's something to keep an eye on. But realistically, this is a chance for Heroic to just build up some extra cash. They've even invested further into rifles, so really anything lost here would be a surprise. And I think Lekro is trying to get onto the close wall. It does look slightly mad, him just running straight out through a smoke, but in reality, they didn't have anything to lose here. Still methodical from Heroic, clearing all the angles, making sure there's no cheeky positions being held, although Borup does have to be a little bit careful. It looks like he's going to be aggressed on, and the firing squad. A nice spray transition from him as well. You spoke about earlier about how you like all the wide swings and everything. It doesn't matter if he's going to hit shots like that.
Oh, certainly. And he also had Tessis just behind him to help him out as well. So they ran into the firing squad. No blanks used today. North straight back in with a full buy, however. MSL with the AWP, and it's not glass cannon, and he has a bit of utility. So as far as these early buys for the CTs go, it's looking pretty rock solid. And they've got the first pick. Tessis down through the smoke. AZ, the adversary, and the assailant, but niko straight back in with one of his own, evening the odds. And it's somewhat of a bonus round, considering the Burp came through into this with an MP5, and he can now transfer up to the AK instead. MSL waiting for a potential peak, but it's not forthcoming just yet. niko making sure that none of these pesky CTs can get their hands on the M4, tossing it off the map.
I guess the only real use for it would be for some reason someone runs out of ammo, or if MSL needs to retake. Slightly underestimating the extent of the buy. We did actually see North save a little bit of extra money to make sure they had everything into this round, which I do think is something that's fairly underrated. Utility being held for a serious amount of time, and they've actually still got 3 smokes with only 40 seconds left. This could make things quite awkward for Heroic on the take, and you can see Gade is already looking to try and counter them. There are the smokes going down. Heroic are going to have to try and make a play through them. A little bit wary that maybe somebody's peeking over the top of the box. In fact, it's Gade spraying straight through. He gets 2 kills, but Storm at the same time has matched him. The bomb will be going down. Cajun can't deny it, and Storm just straight away falls back. He leaves Cadian behind, however, maybe baiting the sound slightly, but the in-game leader is caught out. And now the youngster of Storm is left to clutch again.
Trying a different angle on the approach. It's a bit of an off angle. Coming around here, you expect him to be on the ramp or perhaps side scaffolding looking in. But he's taking his sweet time, making sure the bomb's not getting diffused underneath him. And now they're sticking on it. Storm with 1. There's the second. Both headshots. Well, pardon me, just the second was a headshot, but it was so quick, so rapid. The smile on his face. We spoke about how Cadian is the smiling assassin. Well, Storm maybe the baby-faced assassin with that kind of spray transfer. And what a round from him as well, by the way. Not just the clutch, but picking up a 4K as well. Unreal.
I always love seeing those replays without X-Ray, because you see how truly BS what he just did was. Like, it's very easy with X-Ray to go, oh yeah, sees the guy at the top, and then you see it from his point of view. There's just nothing there. This is starting to look like the Heroic we know and love, though. It's been a close affair, a match, as said in the past, that has been dominant in their favor. Today, North came to play, but the last few rounds look like that vintage Heroic we know and love, tearing them a new one as they run into the site. Bear in mind, round 20 is where we're currently at. Tessis has at least a kill a round. I doubt Stown's too far behind either. These are the players who've been performing throughout the series, so I don't know why that's really a surprise, but had to do a lot here. And while on the other side of things, the initial start for AZ has gone fairly quiet. He was so good in the initial rounds. I think at one point he was like 6-7, 6-8. Now 8-17. So it's definitely gone downhill, that's for sure. The question is, can North dig deep, Vince? Can they bring this back? Because in the last map, they managed it. A 10-5 half I never thought would get anywhere near overtime with the CT side of Heroic up and coming. Now, they finally got a buyback on the board, but they need to strike soon.
I have less faith here on VERTIGO, if I'm being honest, because it's just such a different ball game, like such a different approach. And the way that Heroic have just been waltzing through these defenses, this is much better. AZ and Lekro putting bullets to faces, and Heroic on the back foot. And he did highlight Testis before. He dropped 36 kills, albeit tons of rounds in double overtime, but he had a 1.32 rating and just shy of 100 ADR on NUKE. Tessis is having a blinder of a best of 3. And he's not done just yet. He is still alive alongside Storm. So in terms of the firepower, it's been a bit top heavy on Heroic, but it's the 2 heavy hitters that are still standing and looking to trade off against North. Still plenty of time, making sure all these angles are being dealt with. Nobody on sandbags. They find that out the cost of a Molotov. Testis now going up on side. He has control of the bomb. They need to make sure he doesn't go down. And maybe just realizing that puts Storm ahead of him. Gade watching the cross with an M4. He will be smoked out. Now they know, very good chance that it will be an A-sided hit. Now that come in the cavalry, the troops beginning to change their defense. But will it be too little too late? Because already the T's are on and Gade basically just Molotovs himself out. This stops him from being able to deny the bomb plant. He wanted to throw this on the site. That's a really key moment in this round. And now that he's forced out on the boxes, it allows Testis to come back in for more. The domino effect of Counter-Strike is seen in full effect. The Chaos Theory living up to its name. And North on the receiving end of a battering as a result. And now Cajun and Lekro have got to try and chime together and make something happen. This should not have gone the way it did, but Heroic are unrelenting and Cadian putting bullets to heads now. But you go back to that Molotov, Tom. Everything just completely got out of control this second.
The play from Testis, like the second you see him climb up on that box, like the audacity to do that in that situation. They're currently in a 3v4, a KG round, and he jumps up and takes 2 kills. The second that happened, I think it clicked in everybody's head at the same time that this round was going the way of Heroic. He is 25-10. Even the next highest on his own team is only at 18. He is having a lights out performance. Someone who's burst onto the scene through the likes of Optic not too long ago. Ready the pistols, hoping to try and pull something off, but it's not quite going to plan, even with the kills coming in their favor. The monetary value doesn't matter, Vince. Like, Storm currently has $14,000. He's going to hit max cash at the end of this round, so unless there was a rifle stolen or a chance to win the round, those kills are meaningless.
That's precisely it. You know, even if Heroic do lose another player, it's okay. They can cry into their $10,000. Pretty much all of them. I mean, Storm has 16,000. And if anything, he wants to spend, he wants to drop for teammates. So it has very little bearing on the overall outcome. Cadian, massive smile on his face. Quite the turnaround from, I'm sure, looking across to the dying embers of regulation on NUKE. You can see how much more relaxed, confident, and just how much they're enjoying this performance. North on the other side of the coin, though, are really struggling. And, you know, you highlighted that AZ play. It's all well and good having some entry frags. You're now on the CT side. You can't feasibly go and get all those entries. He does get the first, but it's on a weakened niko. He didn't check his angle, and Lekro at least holds down. This is more like it. If North want to slowly and surely dig themselves out of this ditch, it has to come off the back of converting these first picks. It's pretty simple. North have lost out the last 7 rounds in a row. They have not got a single round on their CT side. And if that isn't a depressing statistic, I don't know what it is. I don't know if North will be able to convert this, but I really hope, Tom, from the neutral's perspective, they can.
Yeah, that's the problem. Like, we're currently looking at them with a 2-man advantage and questioning if they will win this round. That's the place we're in right now. That's the position that Heroic have forced us into, because they have been so good in these clutch situations. Storm winning the 1v2 a couple of rounds ago. Testis taking us from a 2v or 3v4 to a 2v2, and then Cadian closing it. Now the bomb is ticking once again, and sure, there's 5 players on the other side to try and fix this issue, but it has gone quite far already. They're waiting for this flank. Cajun B, he's already gone. Now this flank could be absolutely everything from Lekro, but he gets nothing as well. We end in a 3v3. The bomb's being defused, but Baruch denies it. They're going to put another player in. MSL has got one. The spam coming through maybe could have just stuck the bomb, but it's done. It's over. They've won another round, Vince. Everybody dies, but Heroic, as said, they don't care. There is no round Heroic can't win, and unfortunately, what that means on the other end is there is no round North can't lose.
It was a 5v3, Tom. Elimination is so close. It's tangible now for North. They know it's a tactical timeout gets dropped.
What is this by? You absolute trolls. I can't believe you're doing this, Heroic. No. No. If they win this round, they eliminate North from the tournament with a P90 rush. Now, That is hands down the most brutal thing, the most BM thing I've ever seen a team do in my whole career as a commentator. Vince, I don't know if I want to be a part of this.
Yeah, maybe you need to go shower after this one. I'll feel pretty dirty if this does end up working.
Please. Elliot might quit the broadcast if this works.
And they're getting straight up middle. They're closing the gap, and Cajun,
yes, Cajun.
Justice has been served. Cadian goes down next.
Oh.
And just imagine, Tom, if in 15, 20 minutes time, we're in overtime, and this was the moment, this was the catalyst that started to bring North back into the game.
Honestly, there's nothing I want more. Nothing. In this world right now. I just imagine, because that's the thing, even just in terms of a mentality thing, if you looked at the floor after you got all those kills and you went, every single one of those players was holding a P90. I feel like Cajun has to die with that fact. Like he can't tell his team, it's like, oh yeah, no, they all had rifles, guys. He cannot let them know that that is what Heroic just attempted, because that is the ultimate disrespect.
It did get super aggressive. I mean, it's viable in terms of just going super, super aggro, and obviously you can have that run and gun mentality, but yeah, I mean, it would have been absolutely absurd if it actually worked out. Cajun now getting the drop, but not fully finalizing the kill onto Cadian, who's dropped to 32, the exact same marker that Storm is also sat on. So Heroic early on struggling, but Borup with a huge entry, and it's Tessis with the flash assist that is looking to breathe down on the site. This could be the final passage of play. This could be the final moments of North's tournament life on the line in the lower brackets. MSL, though, threading through the smoke, does get one back onto Borup, and Storm lining up the grenades, banking it off the wall. MSL gets finished off, and Gate traded out as well. Tessis is still ripping and tearing through the remainder of the CTs, leaving Cajun and Lekro with 2 assault rifles by their side. Oh. Cajun aggression, getting 2 of his own, and now Lekro steps up to the plate. The one Swede surrounded by Danes is trying to draw out as much fire as possible, sticking on the site, going for the full defusal. Contested, stop this. What? No, we can't! It's too little too late, and North live to fight another day by the skin of their teeth.
That's unbelievable. He was behind the box. Like, I think the X-ray is slightly misleading, but even still, he just diffuses it straight in front of his opponent, and now that P90 buy, you know, you gotta think about it. I could have worked. It was interesting for sure, but now they've lost to a sneaky defuse. AZ's maybe starting to gain some confidence back. Spoke about the amount of kills he had that was openers. Add another one to the tally. It would be the ultimate karma. Fortunately, the world isn't always fair. Or just, I guess you could say. At least North are starting to fight back. The confidence they've gained, I'm sure, will help them in the next few rounds. Of course, all Heroic need to eliminate them is 1 of the next 5.
We've seen many a time they've came back from a deficit Storm, while Flashbang still connects Centermass onto Gate and Borup up close. Make sure that aggression has been tempered and diluted. And with time left, Tom, they're not going to be fully executing on A. They're switching it up. niko's acting as the linchpin, the foundation they can pivot off. He's over on the B side of the map. There's only one here, which is Lekro, who may look for information at the cost of his life. And if he falls, it's likely this round and indeed this best of 3 will follow. Smoke down, 30 seconds. 2 of the 3 remaining CTs are now over on B. Now the nades start to come in. Now the push starts to come into play, and Cajun using that smoke, wrapping behind the T's. He had such a good nuke performance, and he's keeping it going here, keeping his team in this map, in this best of 3, in this tournament. But Storm has now dealt him a crippling blow, and it's down to MSL. It's a good molly, but the AK headshot connects, and that will be all she wrote.